Are you sure your choices are really your own? Evidence suggests that the reality around you has been carefully engineered for centuries, suffocating an inner force that, if unleashed, could redefine everything people believe about faith, purpose, and success. Suppressed reports dating back to the Rosicrucians and even references in Hermetic documents such as the Emerald Tablet point to a power of mental transmutation that challenges the dominant structure. Researchers like Dr. Robert Gilbert have identified unmistakable signs that unquestionable dogmas operate like invisible bars, keeping the population stuck in stifling routines loaded with endless debts and meticulously cultivated insecurities. It is no coincidence when you notice the flood of empty promises and distractions designed to tame the collective mind and neutralize any inclination toward autonomy. The key to transformation is not found behind temple walls or in doctrinal rules, but in the core of each person, ready to be activated in the face of every challenge. This matrix of manipulation does not hesitate to cover up records or discredit researchers because it fears the moment when people discover their true potential. The law of silence was upheld so that a small group could prosper at the expense of the majority. Yet there are real paths to rip away the veil and reclaim your own power. Only those who dare to question the whole mechanism can find deeper meaning and free themselves from this centuries-old enigma.
It is unsettling to realize that, for centuries, religious and philosophical institutions have concealed the true extent of human inner power. Rather than just rites and rituals, ancient thinkers highlighted the existence of a genuine alchemical laboratory within each individual. This view runs counter to the mainstream narrative that concentrates salvation in external dogmas. Instead of depending on authorities or fixed doctrines, there is said to be a transcendent potential latent in every being ready to be activated. Though this perspective may disturb some people, it presents a new key to understanding the complex dynamic between mind, matter, and spirituality. In this way, long-held traditional beliefs are called into question. In Rosicrucian traditions, awakening the inner alchemist does not rely on liturgical accessories or institutional mediation. On the contrary, texts such as Splendor Solis or references to the Emerald Tablet emphasize that the macrocosm and the microcosm mirror each other. This means that everything observed in the outside world is reflected in the psyche. A challenging notion arises from this. The power to transform everyday circumstances might be available to anyone capable of seeing hidden potential in themselves. Religious orthodoxy rarely admits this idea because it destabilizes structures of power and control, disturbing firmly established hierarchies. Interestingly, contemporary authors like Dr. Robert Gilbert argue that phenomena once labeled esoteric mysteries have direct parallels in quantum physics and neuroscience. For instance, when people talk about seemingly impossible synchronicities, some believe these events emerge from the internal laboratory interacting with the subtle fields of reality. This viewpoint goes beyond mere positive thinking and suggests that consciousness functions as an active player in constructing the experiences we live through. Could the human mind really influence matter? This hypothesis contradicts the mechanistic notion that separates subject and object. It is a colossal challenge. Although some dismiss this idea as a conspiracy theory, historical records indicate that access to such knowledge was once restricted to initiatory circles. Documents associated with the earliest Rosicrucian groups show that sophisticated mental practices were already taking place centuries ago, disguised under symbols and metaphors. In them, lead symbolized limiting beliefs and gold stood for expanded consciousness. Such a premise directly confronts traditional religions, which often guide the faithful to expect rewards in the afterlife instead of encouraging inner transformation right now. This raises an uncomfortable question: who profits from keeping the population unaware of this intrinsic power? Is it on purpose? This video aims to provide the foundation for a journey that explores hidden layers of spirituality. By emphasizing that the real laboratory lies in each person's mind and heart, it invites viewers to rethink what they have long believed. The proposition does not dismiss the importance of rituals or doctrines, but it challenges their supremacy over direct experience. There is, after all, both historical and contemporary evidence that this inner alchemy produces real transformations. From here on, we will delve into the specific aspects of this phenomenon, prompting reflection and pointing toward a hidden force that remains underestimated to this day. There is something disconcerting about how traces of alchemical knowledge pop up in civilizations separated by oceans and centuries. Some scholars point to a selective, almost secret transmission that aimed to safeguard information capable of upending the matrix of power and faith. Materials such as the Leiden and Stockholm papyri from the 3rd century or the enigmatic emerald tablet attributed to Hermes Trismegistus suggest that alchemy was associated with mental transmutation from the very beginning. However, religious and political structures, fearing an independent knowledge that would be hard to control, apparently worked to stifle these ideas. According to certain researchers, this suppression defined centuries of misinformation and censorship. Shifting into the medieval period, the flame of alchemy never went out, although it became increasingly encoded and restricted. Manuscripts packed with allegories and intricate metaphors were passed among a small group of initiates. Depictions of kings and queens, suns and moons, and fantastic creatures alluded to psychic transformation. Out of this tradition emerged Paracelsus, a 16th century physician and alchemist who openly defied ecclesiastical authorities. He claimed that disease was not simply divine punishment, but an internal imbalance that could be realigned through deep knowledge of natural laws. With the arrival of the Rosicrucian manifestos in the 17th century, especially the Fama and Confessio Fraternitatis, the rumor of a discreet fraternity linking brilliant minds across Europe gained strength. These documents reinforced the belief that the ultimate goal of alchemy goes far beyond the transmutation of metals. The Philosopher's Stone appears as a symbol of inner renewal, an idea that directly opposed the era's dogmatic conceptions. This audacity angered the Church, which saw it as threatening the notion that any individual could connect with the divine through personal means. According to Dr. Robert Gilbert, this movement paved the way for an intellectual and spiritual breakthrough, the creation of a secret framework for mental experimentation, foreshadowing concepts found in quantum physics and neuroscience. Instead of bowing to unquestionable doctrines, Rosicrucianism inspired free inquiry. An inevitable clash occurred with official authorities. Why allow the circulation of knowledge that eliminates the need for intermediaries? Prohibitions and harsh punishments were imposed, while adepts hid their treatises to protect them from inquisitorial flames. Confronting this legacy today raises the question: does the so-called official history deliberately overlook the mental aspect of alchemy? If there really was a scheme to neutralize individual awakenings, it is no wonder these historical roots are still hotly debated and surrounded by speculation. These records cast light on manuscripts ignored in mainstream curricula, prompting us to wonder why certain names and documents were intentionally pushed to the sidelines. In this context, the theory emerges that rulers and religious elites did not want people redefining their own spiritual frontiers. After all, a population aware of its inner power is much harder to manipulate, placing age-old structures of control at risk. In that sense, these historical roots raise more questions than answers. It is intriguing to see how unnoticed daily routines can turn into a prime stage for inner alchemy. Instead of requiring mountain retreats or elaborate ceremonies, multiple esoteric traditions indicate that our day-to-day life is where the true great work unfolds. Making breakfast, braving traffic, or interacting with co-workers are hidden opportunities for transmutation. In that sense, the apparent simplicity of daily tasks conceals deep processes of purification and inner refinement that parallel the alchemical phases described in ancient manuscripts. According to some researchers, the most subtle signs of personal change reveal themselves in ordinary experiences. This is a truly radical proposal. Every thought or emotion that arises in everyday situations can serve as raw material to be converted into a more refined state of consciousness. When the 17th century coined the term magnum opus, it was not only referring to turning lead into gold, but also to transforming one's own perception. This idea meets resistance because it questions the assumption that spirituality must be something separate from tangible reality. Yet historical evidence indicates that practitioners were genuinely refining their internal world while going about seemingly mundane activities. The shift between states of mental dullness and inner wakefulness was not just a figure of speech, but a key to understanding how repetitive events can pave the way toward insight. In many Rosicrucian writings, the secret is said not to lie in an ornate church or in knowledge accessible only to scholars, but in our every action. By bringing conscious intention to daily tasks, the individual ascends through progressive states of purification, dissolution, and inner recomposition. That is precisely the process that transforms cooking into coniunctio, blending disparate elements into a whole greater than their separate parts. Likewise, reorganizing your home can reflect the process of separatio, separating what is essential from what is needless. These examples, once dismissed as overblown poetic flourishes, have found modern support in studies by Dr. Robert